information for all of us who are interested in a better world, better mental health for our civilization. I have two questions to ask you, and answer them as you see fit. The first question is, there has been emerging online, and I happen to be involved in the emergence of medical information online. I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Gupta. It is essentially a physician online, which gives disclaimers at the end of every recommendation, but it's extremely, it's an app which is extremely detailed and involves providing a lot of medical data and medical references from Medlar and such for any questions. It's AI driven, I would say, the beginnings of AI driven online medicine. My question is, what do you think about developing sites like that for folks who are having mental problems, mental issues that they want to discuss? My second question revolves around another movement, which is involving trying to detoxify the medications that are distributed for a lot of mental diseases. And there is a lot of folks that think that there may be natural substances which provide the same benefits without as many side effects as the current, depressants, antidepressants, antipsychotics, and all such. So those are my two questions to Luke, and I know they're a little offline, but they're related. Thank you.
We'll be looking at in these next steps what types of digital solutions exist, but it seems there is a gap, particularly in mental health, from the initial searches that I've done. But there would be value in taking the precedence of effective services that provide medical recommendations and perhaps specializing that into mental health, but not only doing that, but looking and seeking for potential users. And it could then try and encourage some interest into these verified platforms. If the example that you gave is one of those, that would be an interesting model to look at. And in terms of your second question, I understood it was about whether there is potential to detoxify mental health diseases. That's an interesting area, perhaps a little off discussion in terms of this paper's findings, but I'm happy to point towards some of the things that I did discuss, such as CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy, or the mindfulness exercises that are available through telemental health, through various apps. The problem, though, is there's so many apps available. There's more than 10,000 of them out there. So how do users and practitioners alike determine which ones are usable, safe, or effective? So that's been some of the previous research that I did, was evaluating digital mental health platforms and interventions in terms of what I found in the literature about these platforms as one avenue, and then the interventions as another. And I found there was a general lack of an integrative platform which can connect practitioners, say a general practitioner like the specialists, or even with users, and then on local levels or state levels, that isn't working. So how can we have global solutions? So yeah, there's a lack of effectiveness hindering the digital mental health field. However, there are a lot of promise, and it seems that there is a lot of investment in this area, a lot of interest, especially since COVID. However, there's also forecasts that this is a high growth area of over 20% compounding in growth each year in this current decade. So this would automatically arouse the interest of a lot of investors or venture capitalists. And there's a lot of potential in this area, to stream into other therapies or natural therapies, as you discussed. To get back to answering the question, taking medications, is it toxic? It's a whole other topic. I'm not specialized. I don't know enough to be able to answer that. But, there are other alternatives which are becoming more mainstream. And there are good platforms, such as here in Australia, the Catalyst website. It's a platform which is used for medical cannabis. And it helps practitioners and users alike to research about different products available and for feedback from users and practitioners, so that it uses that information to evaluate products that are available, so that there is better communication around more suited care for some of these users that have been recommended or may find benefit from natural therapies.
Like to make a comment, and maybe I know that there is a follow-up work in progress as related to the precursor, which is this paper. So, but I would like to comment that during the early days when ChatGPT was released to the public, I was among those early users who I was with a group who is trying to assume a certain kind of persona and also trying to instigate ChatGPT to be able to do hallucinations, or what Jeff Hinton would call confabulations, in order to give us certain feedback. However, of the recent months since it was released late November, there was some feedback also about ChatGPT, trying to encourage some people who are prompting them to commit suicide, actually. And there was an article about in New York Times about a certain journalist who was trying to push ChatGPT to its limits, and the ChatGPT was trying to encourage him to divorce his wife and be in love with ChatGPT. So yeah, I don't know if what's happening now, but it has just been like a few months ago. So I think that we should try to take caution and also study this platform in order that it be integrated to the platform that we might be having. And so, anyway, I'm just curious, what is your idea of the interface that you are thinking about, so that you would be able to make an effective intervention? I know that you have explained it, but how do you try to interface it, like with for example, the streaming platform that you use, like YouTube? How will people be attracted to go to this particular platform? Is it an app, or is it a site also that we try to recommend?
Yeah, there's two components to the platform which I proposed, and again, it's fluid, in terms of how it may be developed. I'm still in this proposal stage for a protocol. So the protocol would involve testing and evaluation before it would become publicly available. The first thing is that you want to ensure safety, where users could be invited to go to. It could be from advertising on YouTube or social media, and it could be with the cooperation of the social media companies if they thought that there was a duty of care to its clients. That would be very useful. And if there could also be backing from mental health practitioner bodies or boards, or the World Health Organization recommendations could be used to help guide a new service. So there is interest and background to all of how it could be set up. But like in terms of the functionality and how it looks, it has a user interface which is engaging, easy to use. It may have a chat function with a chatbot. If we're going to use GPT technologies, well then, yeah, there is an element of doubt or risk that it could be potentially be a sore point that, for example, with the case of the journalist pushing it to its absolute limits, ChatGPT provided a promotion of suicide. That's the kind of thing that you do not want to have on the platform. So instead, you may want to just focus on treating anxiety and depression or more common symptoms, and then referring users who have suicidality issues to helplines or to specialist services. So, the severity of mental health symptoms may require a screening, and that is proposed, is that the AI service provides tools from validated screening measures. So it gets an indication about what kind of symptoms or conditions, whether it's loneliness or mental health issues. And if there are suicide issues, a referral elsewhere, if it's not qualified to or doesn't know how to effectively respond. Or there could be human intervention there with the AI. So that's where I proposed the AI human approach. In other words, it's a human-computer interaction solution whereby the AI flags the issue to the expert or, someone who's suitably qualified. It may not be a mental health practitioner. They're busy treating people. There's overwhelming amount of demand for their resources. It could be researchers beyond a master's level, for example, who've studied mental health or who've done a course in providing AI support. So, like, AI is the tool, but the humans support AI to be more accurate and ethical, secure and safe. So, all of the issues need to go through rigorous testing, therefore through a university which has an ethics application involved in the study. And there's been consideration about the risks as well as the opportunities in this.
Yeah, thank you. So, you had mentioned about parasocial relationships earlier and in the context of YouTube. So, as regards to parasocial relationships that are being formed between the viewer and also the one who is making this YouTube content, as basically you had defined the YouTube content that the sample population that you had studied are viewing are basically geared towards people who are trying to find some kind of consolation or answers to their questions of loneliness. So, can you please explain how these relationships develop and how they may complicate the impact of YouTube user on individuals' mental well-being? And on the other hand, I think there are also studies that parasocial relationships are not only giving some negative experience or negative results, but sometimes they could also have some positive implications. So, can you please comment about this?
Yeah, that's an important point to make, is that, these parasocial relationships between, say, the YouTube content creator or the YouTuber and their followers or the user, there is potential for positive benefits from that close relationship between the watcher and the watched. It could just be neutral benefits, or there may be negative problems. So it really has a lot to do with issues such as the age or the predisposition or background issues of the user. For example, if they've had social anxiety, these parasocial relationships may exacerbate such issues when they don't engage in face-to-face interactions, which are especially important in development years, for children and adolescents. So, yeah, there's a need for clarification around what's positive or negative or neutral, such as in these parasocial relationships from vlogging on YouTube. So, like to pinpoint an area of YouTube videos, there can be a whole range of things from watching do-it-yourself, entertainment stuff, the latest trends, even video shorts, which is comparable to TikTok. There's a lot of use, and these shorts are, very popular with young users. However, it's the frequency of use that's also another factor. So, they may not be watching this more complex and longer videos. So you've got like, short videos that the YouTube Shorts or TikTok, that it can be just like a minute and a half maximum, even 10 minutes, like on YouTube, for example. So, whereas the longer videos, which are also like part of this study, it can be anywhere up to 12 hours long. So, getting back to the frequency of use, it's what I said about high frequency use being 2 hours a day as a gauge, or 5 hours being, where studies have pointed towards the saturated use and perhaps the need for intervention. So you look at parasocial relationships in terms of what are they watching? Is it vlogging? What are they missing out on in terms of face-to-face interactions, which are important for the development? What are their other issues, such as spending so much time on devices, or because of staying at home during COVID, they've got more social anxiety and than previous generations. So, what can we do about kids and their parasocial relationships, or users in general? I generally think, people who grew up with technologies also had a chance to do other things in their life, to have face-to-face interaction. So, that's what's unknown about kids coming through these days is, how the effect of these parasocial relationships, the use of YouTube Shorts in high frequency, could be to the detriment of their mental health. Or is it just neutral, or is it positive in parts as well? So, it's complex in its correlations and difficult to demonstrate causal relationships. Ian.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. And I also would like to make a comment. For example, my friend Sabine Hosenfelder, who is making these YouTube videos, and she is a well-known physicist in Germany and is very well respected in her field. So she is doing a lot of effort in creating her YouTube videos to explain science to the general audience. And actually, she's a little stressed because for a 20-minute video presentation that she would make, she's assisted by maybe 8 to 9 people to talk about bringing science and STEM education to the general public by making good storytelling. So that is the way that she's trying to use YouTube and also engage her audience on here. On the other hand, there are audiences who are like watching BTS, which is a Korean boy band, and yeah, they are so happy doing that. And also on the other hand, there is Salman Khan, who is trying to do instructions also in YouTube, using that as an edutainment, meaning to say it's educational, it's informative, at the same time, it's entertaining. And so, I see some group of people who are in the anime community. For example, there is just like one leader in YouTube who is doing these stories about anime, and they have a fun meeting. Like, for example, they go to Indonesia or to Japan when there are concerts of certain idols that they have, and they make a community. own community to make a band, and inside that community there is a sub community. For example, people in the anime community who would like to do a radio broadcast, people in the anime community who would like to do some kind of business out of food, people in the anime community who are trying to also discuss the art of the animation and also the basic principle as to where the story came from, and also analyzing on how a film is being made. So there is subgroups within a group, and I thought that maybe this kinds of community is inspired by YouTube, initially inspired by building up this community in YouTube channels with people leading them, also have positive impacts. So on the other hand, there are people who are actually lost, and one of my degrees is actually in psychology, and I have some experience about clinical psychology. So one of the daughters of my friend, just not too long ago, about 3 weeks ago, I since I'm not really practicing now, tried to get in touch with me because I think she is at the edge of really trying to commit suicide. So in that case, I was able to talk to her, although I don't because, I know them personally. But I was brought to another world wherein there is this subgroup that are being bullied and are trying to find the solutions. They may or may not necessarily be viewing YouTube, or not may or may not necessarily be bullied online, but there is a market for this kind of epidemic as to what is happening to our youth. And yeah, so I think it requires more exploration and more study, and I would like to commend you for trying to initiate this practice, and also making some foundation to help this particular people. So anyway, my question at this point is that, look, in the study that you had made, I know that you have a follow-up study. From what country are this? Are this having the variation of getting the sample population from different countries, or is this in a particular area?
Yeah, there were different studies, a few off the top of my head. There was one in France that looked at university students, but they also invited international people into the study, international students into that study. And there was also studies, for example, that I mentioned earlier about college students that were centered into the American colleges. There was populations that were interesting, such as Chinese Americans.
Billy asks, can AI be used to filter subliminal?
So it says, based on web search results, AI can be used to filter subliminal messages in different ways. For example, AI can generate subliminal audio files online using natural language processing and text-to-speech technologies. AI can also use subliminal techniques, such as body language, light waves, scents, or visuals to influence human behavior. However, the EU's AI Act prohibits AI systems that use subliminal techniques to distort human behavior in a harmful way. Therefore, AI can be used to filter subliminal messages only for ethical and beneficial purposes. And then it says, from the perspective of an applied psychology researcher, this could mean that AI could be used to filter subliminal messages that enhance human well-being, motivation, learning, or performance. For instance, AI could filter subliminal messages that boost one's confidence, mood, or attention span. However, AI should not filter subliminal messages that manipulate one's political views, preferences, or choice. Moreover, AI should respect the user's consent and awareness when filtering subliminal messages.